The body surfaced at dawn, at the precise moment the fog loosened its grip on the reservoir. Hollow Creek's water reserve had been lowered for maintenance, exposing wide bands of stained concrete that looked like old bones. The gates were locked. Warning signs stood intact. Nothing living or dead was supposed to be there. Clyde Henson noticed the shape while checking pressure gauges. He leaned over the railing, squinting through the thinning mist. At first, he thought it was debris, a tarp, maybe, or a bloated animal pushed up by shifting currents from the intake pipe. Then the shape rotated. A face broke the surface, eyes wide and glassy, mouth slightly open, as if still holding breath. The skin was pale but not bloated, preserved almost. Clyde's stomach folded in on itself. His cigarette slipped from his fingers and hissed into the water. He ran. Sheriff Alton R. Meeks arrived 20 minutes later. He'd seen bodies before, farm accidents, drownings, suicides. But this one unsettled him immediately. The smell wasn't decay. It was chemical. Clean. Too clean. The man was in his late 40s. No identification. Clothing stripped of labels and brand marks. Seams carefully cut. Fingertips smooth as if rubbed down over time. Wrists bore faint, circular burns. Electrical wire, tightened slowly. Removed carefully. The coroner ruled drowning. Meeks didn't argue. He simply wrote environmental inconsistencies in his notebook and circled it twice. Before leaving, he noticed the intake valve. Not open, not closed. Adjusted. Ellery Knox Calder believed failure was never random. He was raised in Braddock Falls, Ohio, where the river ran brown year-round and nobody questioned it. His father tested boilers at a paper mill and spoke in numbers, pressure, tolerance, margins of error. From him, Ellery learned that systems only failed when people stopped caring enough to maintain them. At school, Ellery's notebooks were immaculate, dates aligned, margins respected. Teachers praised his discipline. Other students forgot him easily. The Korean War sharpened his thinking. Assigned to engineering units, Ellery maintained water purification systems for temporary camps. He watched men die not from bullets, but from contaminated wells, dysentery, fever, dehydration, deaths without glory or ceremony. Water decided who lived quietly and who vanished unnoticed. Ellery returned home with a limp and a commendation. He never spoke about the war. By 1956, he worked nights at the Hollow Creek Water Treatment Facility. He preferred nights. Machines followed rules. People didn't. He kept handwritten logs long after punch cards were introduced. Ink didn't malfunction. He noticed illegal dumping, unauthorized runoff, men urinating into storm drains behind bars. He didn't confront them. He recorded them. Maribel Calder learned early that disappearance didn't require violence. Her father left when she was 12. No shouting, no confrontation, just signed papers and an empty garage. From that moment, Maribel understood that removal could be quiet, administrative, almost polite. Raised in Laredo, Texas, she learned patience from her mother and precision from necessity. Silence was safer than questions. In Hollow Creek, she worked in the elementary school kitchen. She followed recipes exactly. Children trusted her. Teachers barely noticed her. That anonymity suited her. She met Ellery at a church fundraiser. He spilled coffee on his sleeve. She handed him a napkin and said, "Hot water sets stains." He paused, then laughed. Their marriage was not passionate. It was functional, structured. They shared routines, beliefs, and eventually, conclusions. When Ellery spoke of contamination, Maribel didn't recoil. She asked how deeply it spread. The first killing was not planned. August 1957. Ronald Peskett, alcoholic, scrap thief, unofficial resident of the drainage culvert behind the plant. He stole copper wire, dumped refuse into the settling basin. Ellery unlocked the ladder that night, told himself it was an oversight. Peskett slipped. The slurry swallowed sound. Ellery watched, didn't push, didn't pull. When it ended, Ellery vomited behind the control shed. Maribel listened when he told her, asked what remained. They burned the clothes, buried the boots near the landfill. They didn't call it murder. They called it correction. After Peskett, they refined the process. They developed rules: impact, visibility, containment, no impulsive acts, no emotional decisions. 1959, Indiana, a meatpacking foreman locked inside a rendering vat during sanitation. 1961, Missouri, a watchman dissolved slowly in lime. 1963, Kansas, a zoning clerk drowned during storm drain inspection. Each death appeared accidental. Each removed someone who misused systems. Maribel kept records, dates, locations, reasons. Ellery refined disposal methods using municipal blind spots. Emotion was inefficient. They aged, they hosted neighbors, paid taxes, attended church. Their marriage deepened, not through affection, but through shared secrecy. Killing became maintenance. Ellery adjusted valves. Maribel filed notes. No one noticed. Detective Harland Wexler noticed numbers. In 1965, reviewing drownings near industrial facilities, he saw repetition. Adult men, minor criminal histories, accidents with anomalies. It took years to assemble files. Departments resisted sharing mistakes. Someone understood infrastructure. In 1967, a sanitation worker found oilcloth-wrapped clothing in a closed dump. Chemical residues matched multiple sites. Maintenance logs led to Ellery Calder. Surveillance followed. Search warrants executed. They found ledgers, shoes, buttons, water samples labeled by date. The system revealed its flaw. The 1969 trial stunned the Midwest. Experts testified about shared delusion, moral rationalization, conscious intent. Neighbors spoke of quiet dinners and trimmed hedges. The press called them the cleaners. The jury deliberated 6 hours. Guilty. Death sentence. Ellery was executed in March 1970. Electric chair. Copper smell. Final thought: closure. Maribel followed months later. Gas chamber. She asked if it had been sanitized. Afterward, regulations tightened. Oversight increased. Water tasted the same. People said the system worked. It didn't. It simply learned how to hide contamination deeper. Before Hollow Creek, before Maribel, before the idea fully formed, Ellery Calder stood knee-deep in a Korean river and watched men die without wounds. The purification unit had failed sometime during the night. A gasket cracked. Pressure dropped. By morning, 20 soldiers were vomiting, dehydrated, collapsing where they stood. 3 were dead by nightfall. Ellery was ordered to fix the system and move on. No investigation followed. That was the moment Ellery understood. Systems did not punish negligence, people did. Or they didn't. And when they didn't, decay spread. Years later, standing alone at the Hollow Creek plant, he sometimes smelled that river again. By the early 1960s, the Calders were no longer confined to one town. Ellery's expertise made him valuable. Temporary contracts, consulting work, short stays in small industrial communities that needed quiet men who didn't ask questions. Each town had its problems. A tannery foreman in Wisconsin who dumped waste into a tributary. A municipal inspector in Illinois who accepted bribes to ignore contamination. A contractor in Minnesota who rerouted sewage to save money. They didn't rush. Maribel researched routines. Ellery mapped infrastructure. They chose places where death already blended into industry. The killings grew more complex, more surgical. Not accidents, failures, engineered to look inevitable. In 1962, they almost stopped. A night guard in Wisconsin survived longer than expected. A scream echoed down an empty corridor. Another worker heard it. Police questioned Ellery for 40 minutes. Maribel waited in the car, hands folded, breathing slow. Nothing tied him directly. The death remained unsolved. That night, Maribel said quietly, "We adjust." Ellery nodded. From then on, they built redundancies. Before Wexler noticed patterns, Detective Samuel Rourke in Illinois noticed absence. Men vanished near water facilities. Files were thin. Explanations unsatisfying. Rourke followed one lead to Hollow Creek in 1964. He spoke to Ellery once, found him polite, precise, forgettable. Rourke died of a heart attack 6 months later. The file closed with him. The Calders never knew how close he'd been. They did not fight like other couples. Their intimacy existed in logistics, timing, cleanup, silence. Maribel once asked Ellery if he ever regretted it. "No," he said. "Do you?" "No," she replied. "I regret inefficiency." They stopped killing during holidays, during illness, during periods of scrutiny. Control mattered. By 1966, Wexler's unofficial file was thick. He had maps, dates, employment overlaps. He noticed Ellery Calder appeared wherever anomalies occurred. The case had no name yet. Just wait. The 1969 trial lasted weeks. Former co-workers testified about Ellery's precision. Teachers spoke about Maribel's calm. Experts debated whether they were ideologues or opportunists. Maribel testified once. "We didn't choose randomly," she said. "We chose responsibly." The courtroom went silent. The verdict never wavered. After the executions, files were sealed. Some towns quietly altered records to avoid lawsuits. Wexler resigned 2 years later. Hollow Creek replaced its intake valves. Nothing else changed. Children drank the water. It tasted clean. Epilogue. Years later, a junior engineer studying old contamination cases would notice something strange, a series of incidents that stopped abruptly in 1968. He would mark it as coincidence. Systems prefer that.